Netflix says inked a deal with Warner Brothers Discovery
in a multi-billion-dollar deal.
Unless you've been living under a rock for the last week, I would assume you have seen a barrage of articles all over the internet, all over social media, stating cinema, theaters, movies, they're done, they're canceled, and Netflix is the bane of all of our existences. I'll admit, I am an undying optimist in a lot of things in life, but it's also the reason I think all of this is going to be okay. So first things first, just to give a quick recap on everything that's been going on if you haven't been following. Warner Bros., one of the classic movie studios, recently went up for sale, and after an intense bidding war, Netflix won and bought them for a lot of money. There were pros and cons to all of the different companies that were bidding for Warner Bros., but one of the big cons and one of the big fears with Netflix was their commitment to the theatrical industry, because obviously Netflix is the complete antithesis of that. And well, it happened. Netflix won the bidding war. Netflix bought Warner Bros. And now Hollywood and all film lovers have crumbled into an abyss of despair. And there's a lot of angles to this. As a movie lover myself, I don't think it's as dire as everyone is making it out to be. And before you lash out on me in the comments, of course, you can still lash out at me in the comments. I want to speak on why I think that is the case. Let's indulge. This video isn't going to be flashy. There's going to be minimal editing. And honestly, I just want to talk about this, talk through my thoughts, and also open up the comment section to see what you guys have to think about it as well. I do not view Netflix as this huge evil. And no, Netflix is not paying me any money for saying this. I think Netflix in itself is more of a vessel or a symptom to the problem at large here than it is the actual problem. The real problem in my eyes is the completely shifting and changing landscape of how we as human beings consume culture and consume media. And to even go beyond that, how we spend our time in general. There's no denying that as technology has pushed forward, we have become more and more insular and isolated from one another. And I think that more so than anything is the biggest problem behind the decline of the theatrical industry. And I hate it probably as much as you watching do too, but the reality is, as someone who really loves movies and dives into film and cinema, and who is in many circles of people who have the same opinions like this, we are not the general population. The sad reality is that the general population is completely fine with getting their couple of blockbusters and getting their brain rot television or their brain rot shows on streaming, and that's that. They're completely content with that. And they have all the right to be that way, but unfortunately, that doesn't really help the theatrical industry. And I touched on it, culture is just so divided that movies are no longer the pinnacle of entertainment like they were 50, 60, 70 years ago. Even in the 90s, you have TikTok, you have YouTube, you have Instagram, you have Reddit, you have movies, you have video games, you have all these things fighting for your attention now. Culture has continued to break off into separate icebergs from the main glacier. There is no monoculture anymore. It is now scattered pieces of what it once was. You can't blame the consumer for this. I think there's a lot of things that Hollywood, that the theatrical industry has done that has kind of shot itself in the foot. The first being how bloated budgets are right now. There is no such thing as a middle of the pack mid-budget movie anymore. We are seeing more and more bombs in spectacular fashion, and that is because you're prone to more bombs when you start making movies for $100 million, $150 million, $200 million, movies for that much that have no business being made for that much. There is no universe where a movie like One Battle After Another should be made for $160 or $170 million. It just should not happen. I love Paul Thomas Anderson as much as the next film nerd. I love Leo as much as the next film nerd. The movie was great. The movie was incredible, and it did great numbers at the box office. It made $200 million. For a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, that's incredible. But for it to not even come close to breaking even is asinine. It should be praised for making that much, but instead we're sitting here having this conversation of it's a bomb because the budget was supremely bloated. And this is not just a problem with One Battle After Another. This is a problem with a lot of Hollywood. And I don't know exactly why that is. Obviously, it's very, very expensive to shoot in a lot of big markets in America. LA, it's basically doesn't even make sense for productions to shoot there anymore because of how expensive it is. But it's also, in some ways, and I don't want to call some of the stars out, of course, but it's kind of like the CEO problem, where you have these actors or CEOs making so much more money than everyone else who's working on the project. And when it comes to these projects that should probably be keeping the budget down a little bit, it just inflates it to a point where it almost takes it out of the ballpark of being able to be profitable. Begonia, for example, arguably my favorite movie of the year, was made for between $50 and $60 million. I do love Yorgos Lanthimos. I think the world of Emma Stone as an actress. But when Leonardo DiCaprio or actresses like Emma Stone are demanding these big paychecks for these mid-budget art house projects, it makes it impossible for them to recoup their budgets. It's just not a winning strategy, and it's just not a logical strategy at all for filmmaking, especially when you look at movies like Train Dreams, that was made for under $10 million, or The Brutalist that was made for under $10 million, or The Holdovers, $12 million, or Hereditary for $10 million. The thing all of these movies have in common is that they look incredible and they're made for that little of money. So it just doesn't make sense to me how there are other movies out there, One Battle After Another, that is shot mainly on location and has a couple car chase scenes in it, is made for 15 times that amount. That's a huge reason right there why theaters are going to struggle so much, because you can't put all the onus on the casual moviegoers to go and see every single indie art house film just because those films were made for a absurdly bloated amount. Another problem with the theatrical industry, in my eyes, is that theaters aren't owed anything just because they used to be the pinnacle of entertainment. Culture is constantly shifting. The world is constantly changing, and theaters haven't kept up with the times. I know that, you know that. My very favorite place in Chicago is the Music Box Theater. It is an all-around incredible experience for film lovers, for casuals. I've brought my brother, my sister, people who like movies but are more so casual about them, to the Music Box, and they love it. It makes a community out of film instead of just being a place where you go to watch movies. And it's cheap. Popcorn is $5-6, and they're constantly hosting Q&As, having directors, having actors. So of course people are gonna want to go there. The place is thriving. Every time I go, it is a packed house. They have continued to expand over the years, and they are now going to be expanding into the Minneapolis market. They are one of the rare theaters, especially independent theaters, that are thriving right now, and it's because they put the film lovers first. You look at these big box theaters like AMC or Regal, and let's just be honest with ourselves. They are soulless. There are broken down arcade games. The halls are foggy because no one's there, and it's vast and it feels liminal. Popcorn is $20, and it's nowhere that anyone wants to be. They can't just expect movie lovers to show up when they don't give them a reason to show up. I think movie theaters need to do a better job of attracting the casual fan. And of course, the easiest way to do that is to start with pricing and to start to build a community around them again. So I've spent a lot of this video knocking the movie theater experience, but it's because as a film lover, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the casual moviegoers. What I'm trying to get at is these are all very fixable things in my eyes, and I absolutely see a path and a roadmap for how theaters can become mainstream culture once again. It's no secret that vintage and retro has re-entered the zeitgeist over the last 3 to 5 years. I mean, look at film photography, vinyl, physical media. And it's because these things have some semblance of gravity to them. They feel real, they feel tangible. And it's for this very reason that I think theaters have a real opportunity to become truly mainstream again. Most of society are just getting sick and tired of the constant social media, bad news, nothing feeling real anymore. Just the scrolling, the doom scrolling, the brain rot, it's all just unbearable. In the next 5 to 10, 15 years, I think you're going to see an emphasis put back on community and third spaces. And this is where theaters can thrive, but they can only do it if they take the music box in Chicago blueprint and expand on that. I do agree that Netflix will probably put an end to the big box theater experience. And honestly, I don't think that's for the worst. And that might be a little bit controversial. That theatrical experience is outdated. And I think there's a whole new model that can propel movies and cinema and the theatrical experience into the future. And like I said, I think it lies with giving film lovers and giving casual fans a reason to be a part of a film community. If you build it, they will come. Movies are too big a part of culture to just go away. That's not going to happen. But they can change and they can shift, just like everything else has, right? The stage actors and actresses feared when movies and motion pictures came into the mainstream in the early 1900s. They thought it would be the end of the stage, but of course that didn't prove to be true. Or when the TV came up, radio thought its days were over. Of course, that wasn't true either. These things are constantly evolving, and yes, it all seems so scary right now, but in some ways, it gives us a chance to reinvent the wheel instead of continuing to spin on a wheel that had nothing going for it. Now, I spent a lot of this video addressing the issues with the theatrical experience and how I think those are fixable. But there are some very valid concerns. Of course, monopolies are not a good thing for anyone, and it does seem like the government of late, with all of these media conglomerates, have turned a blind eye to all of these companies combining and buying each other up, raising prices, just like everything else in our lives. It's going to be more expensive. Netflix is probably going to be $50 when they eat up HBO Max and combine all the forces of Harry Potter and whatever else Warner Brothers owns. Competition breeds good things. And when there is no competition, we all just get screwed. And of course, there is another very valid concern regarding jobs and lost job opportunities. I'm also a little bit weary of that because Netflix is still going to be producing many projects. HBO is still going to be producing many projects. But whether or not it's movies or TV shows or direct to Netflix, direct to streaming, whatever it is, there's still going to be these opportunities. So I think you can see that I'm definitely not a all the way theater purist. I love going to the movie theaters. I love it more than anything. Like I said, the Music Box is my favorite place in Chicago, and there's probably 3 or 4 theaters in Chicago that I do love going to. And none of them are Regal, none of them are AMC. So ultimately, I've rambled a lot here. But the main point I'm trying to make is Netflix isn't the reason the theatrical experience is going to die. If it is going to die, it is going to be because of the shifting culture and the unwillingness to evolve. In saying that, I don't think it's going to die. I think there is a lot of good ahead for the theatrical experience because it's going to force an evolution that has long been needed. And because people are looking desperately for those third spaces. And by third space, I mean areas outside of work or outside of your home, places you can go and just be human. There is a resurgence for theaters waiting. The theaters just have to give us a reason to go. Let's all just take a deep breath and let's see how this plays out. I know we all value the theatrical experience. I very much so do. But Hollywood needs to find its way back to the mid-budget in a strategic and intelligent way. There are plenty and plenty of great examples of films that are great that have been made for far, far less than that. Nothing stays the same forever, and we can't expect it to stay the same forever. But maybe this changing of the guard will give us an opportunity to reimagine what the theatrical experience should be in the best of ways. Guys, thank you for sticking around and hearing me ramble. And this was also in some ways therapeutic for me because movies mean a lot to me. And just like they mean a lot to me, I know they mean a lot to you too. But if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, comment, like whatever it is you do on this channel. I will see you next time. Take care.